I never imagined my own children could forget me, not for a day, not for a week, but for years. And when I finally stood up, they realized too late that their father was no longer the man they thought they could ignore. My name is Daniel. I am 70 years old. And this is a story of how I was abandoned by the very children I raised, the pain I endured, and the quiet, relentless way I reclaimed my dignity. I spent my entire life for my family. I worked long hours, sacrificed comfort, and made sure Lisa, Mark, and Tom never lacked anything. My late wife, she had always been my partner, my anchor. She reminded the children to call, to visit, to respect their father. But when she passed 5 years ago, the balance shifted. Without her, I became invisible to the three people I loved most. At first, I told myself they were busy. Lisa, 40, had her career in the city. Mark, 44, traveled constantly for work. Tom, 35, had his own family and responsibilities. I convinced myself they cared, in their own way. But slowly, the calls became less frequent. Visits turned into months apart, and holidays that once brought laughter and warmth became lonely days spent in silence. Then the truth hit me like a cold winter wind. My own children were abandoning me, not gradually. They were actively ignoring me, pretending I didn't exist. The breaking point came in the hospital. I had fallen seriously ill and was admitted for treatment. Weak, scared, and alone, I called Lisa, Mark, and Tom. I waited, hoping to hear their voices, to see them come through the doors. Hours passed, one day, then another, 2 full days in a sterile hospital room. Not a single child came. I remember the nurse looking at me with sympathy, gently urging me to rest. But sympathy cannot fill the emptiness left by betrayal. I felt anger, simmering beneath the grief. How could the children I raised, the ones I had worked tirelessly for, treat me like I was nothing? And in that anger, something shifted inside me. Pain alone would not give me peace. Tears alone would not restore my dignity. If I wanted justice, if I wanted to be seen again, I had to take matters into my own hands. I began quietly, carefully, collecting evidence of their neglect. Messages they never answered, voicemails ignored, neighbors and friends who had witnessed their disregard. I documented everything. The subtle betrayals, the dismissive gestures, the way they pretended I didn't exist. Months passed. Lisa, Mark, and Tom continued their lives, confident that I would remain passive. But I had a plan, a moment where the truth would hit them like a storm they could not escape. One afternoon, I sent them a simple message. I want to meet. This is important. They thought it was a routine call, a family gathering. But little did they know, this meeting would change everything. The day arrived. I prepared my home meticulously. Every photograph of family memories, every memento from our lives, displayed carefully. When Lisa, Mark, and Tom arrived, they carried their usual arrogance, unaware of the storm waiting for them. I invited them to sit, and I began softly, almost gently. I recounted memories of their childhood. The nights I stayed up when Lisa had a fever, the weekends I spent coaching Mark's little league team despite exhaustion, the countless trips I made to support Tom's school events. I reminded them of the sacrifices I made quietly without complaint for the sake of their happiness. Then I shifted. I began to reveal the reality they had tried to ignore. The calls they never returned, the birthdays they skipped, the visits they canceled, the holidays they abandoned. I presented every detail I had carefully documented over the past years. I watched as their faces changed. Shock, guilt, panic, the realization that their father had not vanished, had not grown weak. They had simply refused to see me. But the moment wasn't just about shame. I wanted them to understand neglect has consequences. Over the next few weeks, quietly and deliberately, I let the community know the truth. Friends, neighbors, colleagues, they all learned how Lisa, Mark, and Tom had treated their father. Suddenly, the lives they thought were untouchable were no longer safe from judgment. Lisa, Mark, and Tom tried to justify their actions. Lisa said she had been too busy with work. Mark claimed he didn't realize how serious it was. Tom begged for forgiveness, tears streaming down his face. But I had learned that forgiveness could not replace respect. The point was not punishment. It was awareness, accountability, dignity. In the months that followed, I focused on myself. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with. I pursued hobbies I had neglected. I even traveled places I had always dreamed of visiting. Each step reminded me that life continues, even when those you love fail you. And in this newfound freedom, I discovered something vital. Revenge is not always about causing pain. It is about reclaiming your life, your pride, your voice. Lisa, Mark, and Tom were forced to confront uncomfortable truths. They faced the scrutiny of people they respected. They realized the weight of their neglect and saw firsthand the damage their choices had caused. And as for me, I emerged stronger, wiser, at peace. I had survived the deepest betrayal imaginable, and in doing so, I had regained control of my life. I was no longer invisible, no longer powerless. I had reclaimed the dignity that their neglect had threatened to steal. Looking back, I see now that the greatest revenge is not violence, not humiliation, not anger. The greatest revenge is survival, self-respect, the courage to show the world, and your own children, that you will not be ignored. This is my story. Abandoned by my own children, but never defeated. I got even, not with hatred, but with wisdom, courage, and unwavering determination. And in the end, I discovered that the love you give can be powerful, but self-respect is stronger. If you ever feel invisible, forgotten, betrayed, remember this. You have the power to rise above it, to reclaim your life, and to ensure that those who abandon you understand what they lost. Because no one, not even your own children, can take away your dignity unless you allow them.